All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Haley LaQuesta. I'm the Director of Media and Public Relations here at the Richmond County School System, and I am happy to welcome you to our second virtual town hall. This is a monthly series where we bring together community members with experts from across our school system to ask pressing questions and really connect families with resources. So the special topic for tonight is special education. Um, they have the old saying that it takes a village to educate a child, and really special education and our special education department is one of the most important arms of support to really wrap around every student and ensure that they're successful in the classroom. A little bit about our special education department. They have more than 60 employees that are made up of occupational therapists, speech language pathologists, in addition to our coordinators, our special education teachers. And they are led by Dr. Lorena Thomas, who is our Director of Special Education. So we have more than 4,000 students who receive special education services in our district, and we're absolutely so glad to have you on, Dr. Thomas.
Thank you for having me here
Yeah.
this evening. I'm real excited to just share about special education.
Okay, so before we start, I'll start with a little bit of ground rules. So many of our participants have sent in their questions in advance, but as we go along in this presentation, Dr. Thomas will start with a little bit of a presentation before we go into Q&A. You'll see a button either at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on the device that you're on, that says Q&A. And as we go through the presentation, if you have any other questions or any other concerns about the content of the presentation, you can submit that. And at the end of the presentation, we'll go over your questions and give some answers. So until then, I'll stop here. And Dr. Thomas, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you again and welcome everyone. And I want to introduce our world to you all, and this is our special education world. As I begin, I want to start with our mission statement. And you all should have heard this last week. Dr. Cobb did an excellent job in explaining that our students, we're really working with empowering every learner every day. And with our vision statement, specifically with our special needs students, we want to ensure that we prepare them to thrive, to adapt, and to lead in an ever-changing world. A couple of these beliefs that I think stands out for us. The first one is all students deserve a quality educational experience. That's all of our students. And that education is a shared responsibility. And I do hope tonight, after I finish, you all can see that transparency is a foundation of trust. And that's one of the things that we totally try to do with our department is to build their trust with our parents, our community, and also our students.
All right,
So
thank you
with
for
our,
that, Dr. Thomas. Before we go any further, I do think you
okay.
need to share your screen so we can see your lovely presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries at all.
My apologies. I don't know what happened. So, as I mentioned, the empowering every learner every day. And again, I want to just touch on the beliefs. All students deserve a quality educational experience, and transparency is a foundation of trust. So, when we look at our strategy map, the things and the components that I'm going to share with you all today, each one of these areas will drive this presentation, and that's student achievement, stakeholder engagement and communication, talent development, and of course, safe and a secure learning environment. So I am super excited to introduce my team, my admin team, my leadership team. It starts with me, of course, being the director, Lorena Thomas, then Tamika O'Bannon, our senior coordinator, Courtney Flanoy, our coordinator, Karen Warren, our coordinator, and then we have a vacancy in place. And so our mission statement for special education is for all of our students to work collaboratively with all of our stakeholders, our system to work collaboratively with all of our stakeholders to create an effective learning environment to ensure that our students with disabilities can graduate and become contributing citizens within their communities. What is special education? Special education is specially designed instruction to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability. I always say this first and foremost. Our students with disabilities are general education students first, and then we provide those specially designed instructions and put those things in place so we can equip our students so they are successful in the classroom. It's important to ensure that our students have access to the general curriculum and so we can have improved outcomes. Our key principle for tonight, I want to remind everyone that FAPE is one of our big pieces. It's free appropriate public education, and it is a key requirement of our Individuals with Disability Education Act, which is IDEA. IDEA. It ensures that the students with disabilities are entitled to a free and public education. So federal laws and the one that we fall under, it is IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act. But then you may also be familiar with Section 504, and then of course Americans with Disabilities Act. Each one of these laws provide rights and protections to students with disabilities and responsibilities for school. So, what is an IEP? An IEP is an individualized education program that is a legally binding document developed for a student with disability who qualifies for special education services under the Individuals with Disabilities Act, and that's IDEA. So what I wanted to do, starting out with this presentation, I wanted to ensure that you all get the basis or the groundwork of what special education is. Now we're going to move into how do we support special education. We're going to talk about some highlights, some initiatives, and then we're going to look at some next steps. So with our IEP process, it starts with the pre-referral and intervention. After the pre-referral and intervention, it goes into the referral and evaluation. So some of you may be familiar with the MTSS or RTI. That's that pre-referral and intervention. What interventions have we put in place prior to recommending for an evaluation? After the evaluation, we have what we call an initial, which determines the eligibility outcome, whether or not students are, if there's a category that a student is found eligible to be served in or not. And then as an IEP team decision or as an IEP team, we then have what we call a continuum of services, and we decide as a team what placement, where would the student fall for those continuum of services. And then of course you have to develop the IEP, and then along the way throughout the year and for the future years, you will have that progress monitoring and an annual review. So when you talk about the continuum of services, we always try to work towards, and you may hear this, it's called the least restricted environment. Students with disabilities must be educated with non-disabled peers to the maximum extent appropriate. Then with the LRE decisions are based on the student's IEP and should ensure access to the general education environment whenever possible. So basically with the least restricted environment, you have this continuum, you have this where you start with the least restricted, and in this case, it will be the general education classroom, and then you will move according to the needs of the student and according to the IEP team decisions. LRE is not a one-size-fits-all. Placement is individualized and it's based on the student's specific needs and not on label, disability category, or school convenience. And it again exists on a continuum of services. So the continuum of services, with continuum of services, IDEA requires districts to provide a range of placement options to meet students' individual needs. Services vary in intensity, setting, and support. But again, placement is based on the IEP team, and again, is not based on convenience. So I wanted to show or share with you all, what do I mean by continuum of services? As you see, it's almost as if this is like a rubric, or is going from your least restricted to your most restricted. From the left, it moves from the left to your right, to the right of the screen. You have your general education with accommodations, and then you have your inclusion setting. Your inclusion setting is actually our students with disabilities who are embedded, or who is in the same classroom with our general education students. The only difference is with the accommodations, with the modifications, with the specially designed instruction, the students are able to really function just like a general education student. Then as you move across the continuum, then you have what we know as our resource room, and that's our pull-out classrooms. So that may look like, for me, if I'm a student in a pull-out classroom, I may only be served in one period of that particular day, or one segment of that day. For a self-contained classroom, that means that you're in the classroom for a full day with a one teacher. And then you move on this continuum of services. You have your AES, and those are your alternative educational settings. That's services that we have to provide when a student may have reached a number of out of school suspension time, or if a teacher is out on FMLA. Those are your services that you provide for your students. And then you have, of course, special education programs. And then you have your hospital, homebound, and home instruction. And those services are your most restricted, and it must be approved by district personnel, such as our team, before we move any further. So, how do we support our students? The main thing, we have three goals, and the main thing that we do try to do, we work towards equipping all of our stakeholders. That's our students, our teachers, our paraprofessionals. We're talking about our district level staff. We equip so we can empower. That's very important to ensure that students are successful academically. We also build culture and relationships with all stakeholders. It's important for us to, work with our communities. It's important to work with our families. It's important to work with our teachers, to ensure that if the culture is in place, then of course our students will be successful. And then last but not least, we work to focus on continuous improvement with the emphasis on utilizing processes and progress monitoring. And we're real heavy with that because we want to ensure that we are compliant and we're meeting the needs of our students. So as we improve success with our three special education goals, there are some highlights that I would like to share with you all. Several highlights includes train district and school stakeholders. One of the things that we have really been working hard at is ensuring that our teachers are equipped. We have a really, really robust program or plan for this year, and I'm going to share that with you all momentarily on how we're going to ensure that not only our teachers are trained and equipped, but also our paraprofessionals. We initiated a district logo and branding. You may have seen that earlier with the two bodies with the anchor in the middle. We also work on response time, making sure that we communicate in a timely manner. Our goal is to try to respond in 24 hours, but max 48 hours. We have partnered with parents and also our community, and we have an advocates group. And so we're really excited to say, last year we were able to meet 4 times, and that's what our parent and community advocates, and that right there really kind of helped us because they're the ones, our parents and our community advocates, they're in the community. They hear what's going on. And so they're able to share what the concerns are. And if there's something that, we're not doing, or if we're meeting the mark somewhere, that time gives us an opportunity to communicate and to discuss and look at next steps on how to make it better. The last thing is onboarding paraprofessionals with a registered behavior technician skill set to support students with disabilities. We have a lot of students that, they struggle with their behavior, they struggle. We have several nonverbal students that, it's difficult for them because they don't understand or know how to express themselves. And so we really work to ensure that, we have individuals that help them with that process, and also with our behavior support students. Additional highlights includes Laney High School. They were able to come off or to be removed from the federal identified list, and that was announced this past year. Progress monitoring, it takes place. We monitor, our dashboard, that we called our Go IEP dashboard, to assure that our IEPs are on track, to make sure we're doing our reevals in a timely manner. We were awarded and approved to receive 2 parent mentors from Godot, and that was through a parent mentor partnership grant. And then we have also partnered with Evan Driven to provide safe and reliable transportation that's tailored to meet the needs of our students. And so with all of these highlights, we're just really, excited that just last year we were able to accomplish a lot. The next thing that we're real excited about is the parent survey that our Georgia Department of Education asks us to do every year. And as you see, you all really, you came out and you provided your feedback, and that's very helpful for us. If you notice, from 2021, we started with 69, and then it kind of fluctuated, went up, and then it came back down. But this year, we were able to survey 313 of our parents, which, this information provides us with really good responses and how we can improve our department. So I wanted to break down the survey report so you can see, by exceptionality, how the responses were counted, and then the percent that's aligned to the count. And so if you notice, we have a huge count of autism parents that responded, which was 38%. And then, these are all of the exceptionalities. And so you go from autism to emotional behavior disorder, and you can see that we have every area represented except our deaf and blind. So the overall survey report, it did provide us with a score, and it was a parent satisfaction. And I put here the state compared to our system score. So we weren't as far, below the state. And of course, we want to be 90% or greater. And then this data here is going to allow us to, be able to really reflect and to determine, what do we need to do to ensure that, we are in the 90th percentile or even at 100%. And so these are the question numbers that parents had to answer to in this survey. It was only 10 questions. And the 2 areas that we did score the lowest in, it was question number 10 and question number 5. And so with these 2 questions, the one question was, or the survey response was, the school provides informational agencies that can assist my child in grade level transitions and or transitions to post school settings. And this year we are working more closely to our vocab rehabilitation center, our high school high tech, There are a lot of different areas or different agencies that we're working with. And then we have a transition facilitator, and we're being more intentional on working with our counselors and being in the building in the high schools and also our middle schools to make sure our students with disabilities transitioning from fifth grade to sixth grade, that they're not like a fish out of water, coming from an elementary school going to middle school, and then also an eighth grade student going to ninth grade. But then we really plan to track our students from ninth grade to 12th grade once they're graduating. And once they graduate, the goal is to make sure that there is a plan in place for each one of our students who graduate. And then the other question, number 5, the school communicates regularly with me regarding my child's progress on IEP goals. And what that means is we as a school district, not only, from the district side, we need to respond um, or have that two-way communication that Dr. Cobb mentioned. The school has to do that as well. So the department, our special ed department, we're working towards the 24, 48 hours, but we're also talking about that good customer service support, that schools have to or should, implement within their building for all of our parents and students. So our initiatives for this year, we have 4 anchors of excellence in our special education department. And if you notice our branding on the right-hand side, this is our new logo for our special education department. It's important that we have quality instruction, we have inclusive practices. It's important that we utilize our data to make those decisions and also to progress monitor the data. We want to ensure that we have that stakeholder communication and collaboration, continue with our parent and community advocate collaboration that we have started last year. And then it's very important that everybody's held accountable and that we're being compliant and we have continuous improvement. We want to see our students be successful. We want to see them achieving and to show the growth that we know that they can do. So some new initiatives that we are implementing this year. We have already selected 5 schools for a pilot program for our low incidence classrooms. And I would like to define low incidence as our MOID, our autism, our SIDPID, our behavior support classrooms. So we've identified 5 classrooms from middle school through high school. And this is a pilot for us. And the goal is, after this pilot, is to initiate this in all of our low incidence classrooms starting out. And hopefully, we can actually get into our more interrelated or a high incidence classroom, like our inclusion classrooms. We also have a partnership with Augusta University with our speech language partnership for our speech language therapists. They are currently, we have they have a brand new program there. So the idea is after they have finished school, that they could come and support, our students here in Richmond County. We are excited to say that we have an increased number of face-to-face SLPs, and that's speech language pathologists, to serve all of our preschool through first grade and our low incidence programs for our MOID, autism, and SIDPID for elementary schools. For the other grade levels, we are doing, we have to do a virtual speech language pathologist. This has been, matter of fact, the virtual setting has been what has been going on these last few years, especially since COVID. And so we are super excited. This year, we doubled the number of face-to-face therapists. And so last year, we had approximately 6 to 7. This year, we have about 15 therapists. But we had to restructure the process. We wanted to make sure that we have a systemic way of how are we going to distribute our face-to-face versus our virtual. And so one of the things that we decided to do, if we catch our kids early on in preschool, up through elementary, then the hope is we won't have a lot of students that would need speech in middle school and high school. And so that's why we restructured the process. Now, as we get more face-to-face speech language pathologists, then of course we'll continue to move through our elementary school and then of course our middle and high schools. Another initiative, we've partnered with HR, our human resource team, to support all provisional teachers to seek full certification. We have an early learning center, YMCA, Early Childhood Development Company. We're at Collins right now, and they have a lot of great wraparound services. We actually have 6 classrooms for our preschool, 2 3-year-olds, and then we have 1 autistic class, and then we have the others as 4-year-olds, AM and a PM. The next thing is we actually were allow or allocated additional staff. You know, we want to ensure that we're able to support our teachers as much as possible. So we have an additional instructional coach. We have a second preschool evaluation team. We've been getting a lot of referrals. As of right now, since January, we have already received about 300 referrals. And since this summer, we've received about half of that, about 150 referrals for our preschool evaluation teams. And we also were allotted a preschool facilitator, again, to support the growing needs in our department and schools. One of the biggest pieces that I think is very important, that we're able to look at our teachers and their approach to teaching. A lot of our teachers, might have, this may be their first year coming out of college, their first year, into the classrooms. And so, we want to ensure that they are equipped and that they are prepared, to teach all of our students. And so one of the approaches is to tier our teachers. And as we tier them, we know how to go out to support them. And we've also now started going out to actually conduct like a walkthrough, a snapshot to provide that support to our teachers. A last thing is we were able to send all of our behavior coaches, selected program specialists, and 2 of our coordinators to what we call a mindset training. And this training is designed to train them so they are understanding the best practices and effective strategies with students that are overwhelmed by behavior challenges or just don't know how to de-escalate themselves. So this training has allowed them to learn how to work with the students, but also it's a trainer model. And so with our crisis teams that we have in every school, they will also be trained and they will be able to train the staff, and we're building capacity within each building. This training also has allowed, for the behavior coaches and the selected individuals, they'll be able to share those strategies with teachers and school staff so everyone works consistently so that your child gets the same positive, effective support across the school day, leading to better learning and behavior outcomes. So as you see, we have had a lot that we had going on last year in 2024, 2025. We had a lot of highlights that we wanted to share. I wanted to open up so you kind of understand what special education is, the process, how to support, and now our next steps is for us to really go into the classrooms and to support our teachers, to equip them and to empower them so they are able to support the students. We're working together with you all supporting us. We're here to work together for all of our students because we are indeed anchored in excellence. And so I want to thank you for allowing me to share the presentation.
All right, thank you for that, Dr. Thomas. So we went a little bit over with our presentation, but we'll try to allow at least 10 minutes for questions.
Okay.
We're entering the Q&A portion right now. As a reminder, you have the Q&A button that you should see that will allow you to submit your questions if you had something that came up during the presentation. But otherwise, we also have a set of questions that were sent to us in advance. As a reminder, all of our questions that we talk about here today will be uploaded to our website at rcboe.org/townhall. And then a recording of this will be there available as well so that you can look back on it. So to start, and I'll start us out first. Some people had similar questions, and I'll kind of combine them into one big question. We had some questions about right sizing and about consolidation of schools. So let's see here. What is the plan for school closure since it was put on the hold after the last superintendent left? Current plan for right sizing in their schools. So conversations about consolidation are going to resume this fall. Those dates have not been released yet, but in terms of what it looks like, it's going to be a conversation with our community. If you go to rcboe.org/masterplan, you'll find a lot of information about our current conversations and where we left off about master planning, long-range facilities master planning. And those conversations will be open to the public, and we're excited to bring our community in at a later date when those dates are released. So let's talk a little bit more about special education. Dr. Thomas, I have a question for you, which is, what is being done about very large self-contained class sizes for special education?
Yes, so one of the things that we were able to do, and we received the support from our senior team and our board office board members, was to expand the number of classrooms that we have in our district. We do, and we have had a lot of students that have been found eligible for our special needs classrooms. And one of the things that we started with, particularly in our autism classrooms and our behavior support classrooms, we divided the classes by their grade level bands. So for example, instead of them being a K-5 behavior support classroom, we divided it as a K-2 and a 3-5. So number one, that helps because the age group are more closely aligned. And then number two, that was, we were able to, cap the numbers off better. And so, although our numbers are, we're meeting our state regulations, we are, hoping to, get the numbers even lower than what we are currently, but we are low enough where we meet in the state regulations.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And now our next question, I'm seeing it's kind of, I think a 2-part or 3-part question. So I'm seeing a question here that says, how soon can a child be tested for their IQ or to receive special education services?
So there's not a timeline, or it's not a parent can request to get tested at any time if they suspect their child, if that child has a disability that impacts the learning. All they need to do is to coordinate with, their school, contact the school, speak with the counselor or their teacher to share their concerns. And then once, typically they probably would, start with in writing so we can get it official. But the main thing is for them to express their concerns, and then we can start the process. Now, on the flip side of that, if it's not necessarily testing over, immediately, but we know that there are some things that's going on, and we're just trying to figure out why why the child is not, or the students not learning as quickly as they think the student should, then that's when we have what we call our MTSS process. And then with that process, the team will provide these strategies and monitor these strategies, and will continue that continuum. And then maybe after going through the process, the hope is that the student was fine, able to be successful. But if not, then that student could then go into that, that pre-referral process, for evaluation. And if I may, I do want to go back to that other question that you all mentioned. You mentioned about the classrooms being, large. I do want to add to that. Not only are we, ensuring that the classroom sizes are meeting our state regulations, but we have also added additional paraprofessionals in the classrooms as well. And I do want to share that as well.
Yeah. So either we're addressing the size itself or those
Mhm.
classes that might have more students or getting that extra
They're
support
getting
so that
that
we can
support.
cover across all students, right?
Absolutely.
So going back to early testing, and because that early testing and in the process of it, what can parents and teachers do to plan ahead and kind of help their child as they're trying to get those layers of support, or maybe they're in the process of being tested?
So I'm a proponent, start with the teacher, let the teacher know, little Lorena is having some problems and, then they will start with having that initial meeting, start with a parent conference and then of course, then you will look very specifically at the areas that, the student is having troubles with and, those interventions will be put in place or should be put in place and you just follow that process, but the schools are equipped. They each have an MTSS person that can help guide and facilitate that process to ensure that the student is getting the support that they need.
Mhm. Another question about the classroom. Um, how many teaching assistants or how many professionals perhaps are in each classroom? And it probably varies pretty
Mhm.
widely across all of our schools. But what can, an average special education classroom see, or what kind of support is available in those classrooms?
Absolutely. So if we're talking about an inclusion classroom, that's a combination of our general ed students and also our special needs students. In those classrooms, we try is there's not a written rule to say you have to have a certain number of students, but we do a third of the students in that classroom of whatever that class count is
Mhm.
of our special needs students. And within that classroom, you will have a general ed teacher and a special needs teacher. In some cases, like our science and social studies classroom, you may not have a special ed teacher, you may have what we call a paraprofessional support teacher, and that's the teacher that's in the science and social studies. But then if you look at more of our, like what we refer to as our low incidence classrooms, like our MOID and our SIDPID, it really depends on, there is a cap. We start with if there's a minimum of 10 to 12 students, we do make sure we have two paraprofessionals for sure. But sometimes, depending on the need, if we have more students with wheelchairs, like in our SID PID classrooms, then we have to add additional para support. Or in a
Mhm.
behavior support classroom, we try not to cap it. We try not to exceed 5 to 6 students in that classroom with 2 to 3, because with our behavior support, we may have students that have a little bit more difficulties with managing their behavior. And so we don't want to overwhelm the kids being, in one classroom, but also we don't want to overwhelm the adults in the classroom as well.
Gotcha. So, and it sounds like it's a really tailored approach based on the needs of that student.
Totally.
Um,
And as we add to, you could have an additional paraprofessional in some of our classrooms after you got if we exceed the number 12 students, then we would add an additional para, but it's totally based on the need of the classrooms as long as but we do start with the state regulations and we do not, deviate away from that.
mhm. So, talking about inclusion classrooms and things like that, are students in a traditional classroom able to mix with students who might have a disability, or quote unquote regular classrooms? I'm sure how you would refer to that as, like mixing in classrooms and things like that for socialization, and just specific needs for a child.
Absolutely. In fact, that's what, if we had a like a crystal ball, you always want to start with, and that's what we consider as the least restricted environment because, there are certain guidelines that Georgia Department of Education, they really focus on the least restricted environment. How can we ensure that, our special needs students are in that environment so they are exposed to everything that our general ed students get. as I've said in our PowerPoint in that presentation, that our special needs students are general ed students first. And, we just have to provide that, that specially designed instruction, put that piece in place to tailor the needs of the students, to meet the needs of the students. But there's no reason why, we always should start with that environment. And there are some cases where, that placement that may not be the best placement. But again, that decision is not, just based on one person. That comes with the IEP team, and that's how that decision is made.
Yeah, it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some avenues that parents or guardians have if their school administration, they feel like their school administration is not being helpful, or they need some extra support to go through their IEP or have a situation with their child?
So every parent, I will like to say, and I'm just gonna hold this up, but every parent has they have rights. All parents have rights, and this is the Handbook of Parent Rights. And the one thing I would like to say with this particular parent, this handbook on parent rights, is that we want to, number one, make sure you are heard. Whatever your concerns is very important. And if you've started with your school and you're not getting the results that you feel that you should be getting, of course, start with us. Our number here is 706-826-1132. But start with our department. I feel it's very important that everybody understands that all of us have to advocate for our special needs students. It's important that they get what they need. And so if you're not getting the results or the outcome or the desired outcome, then we definitely say, reach out to us and our department, and allow us to provide the next steps for you and to provide, that assistance. And that may mean, us all sitting down at the table, including our department, with the school, to figure out, what support or what concern to address the concerns that, you as the parent or the parents may have.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to note that that parent rights handbook that you have, it's given to every parent in the beginning of the IEP process. Is that correct?
Yes, they get this at the very beginning of the year. You would get the one copy. Of course, if you need another copy throughout the year, you'll get that. But they will go through, what your rights are. And then at each meeting, they would just remind the program specialist or whomever's in this meeting, they remind you of these rights. And at any point, if you have questions concerning the rights, you can always ask, for clarity, what's in this handbook.
Mm-hmm. And like every concern for any student, the teacher knows your student situation best. Start with the teacher, communicate through to the office, your counselors or your administrators. And then, of course, special education department is always here. And the phone number is also on our website at rcboe.org under staff and departments in special education. If you need that phone number. Another way to contact special education department is through Let's Talk. So rcboe.org. On the bottom right, you see something called Contact Us, and you can also contact the special education department directly through that to share any kind of concern that you have. So moving on, let's see here. A next question. So you did kind of mention this in your presentation about addressing certified teacher shortages for special education, and we have so many partnerships with Augusta University, with CSRA RESA, programs that we're working with across the CSRA to increase certified teachers and have them come back to our school system to teach. So anything else you wanted to add on that, Dr. Thomas?
Oh, and we have a couple of great third-party companies that are actually allowing us, they're coming to us certified. So, one of the things, I get a weekly report, through HR, and when I see that there may be a vacancy or a potential vacancy, I start, help, our team, assist the HR team to try to find or try to fill that position ASAP, because it's important that, teachers are in place, certified teachers are in place, and not only are they in place, but they stay. that we retain them, and that comes with training and that support, and doing what we need to do to help again equip our teachers.
Gotcha. I have a question here. Are there any tests for paraprofessionals that solely focus on special education or autistic certifications in Richmond County schools?
So our paraprofessionals, they do have to go through a certification process. And this year we did HR, they worked very hard in making sure that the paraprofessionals are certified. And I can't tell you specifically what that is, but I know there's a certification to it. That's with the HR piece, with the screening and all of that. But there is a certification that our paraprofessionals do have to go through. In terms of our teachers, did you mention teachers, or I'm
No,
sorry,
that
can you
might
ask
be
that?
good too.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So in terms of teachers, yeah, there is a certification test to make them, or to qualify them to be able to teach students with disabilities.
I gotcha. So we have a question here about what the steps are to go to another school that's not in your school zone. So it's not just special education related, but when it comes to moving into different schools that are outside of your school zone, we do have a process for that. If you visit rcboe.org/choice, it brings you to our school choice page, but it also gives you a lot of information about transfer requests and transferring in zone exemptions. So for example, um, there are periods throughout the school year that open up and allow people to request an exemption through House Bill 251, so school transfer requests. There's also zone exemption requests for extreme hardships. So if you go to that link, rcboe.org/choice, you'll find some more information about that. Another way that you can get information about school zones and how to address that for your specific needs, you can call our school choice department at 706-826-1136. That's 706-826-1136. I have a question here. Should students in self-contained classrooms join an inclusion class?
Oh, absolutely. I'm pro. It now will depend on the level, the cognitive level, and whether or not, because what we don't want to do is to overwhelm a student, allowing them to go to an inclusion classroom. But I'm always a proponent. Let's start with general ed first. Let's start with the inclusion classroom first. Then, if a student is not successful, maybe he can be there half, or she can be there half the time, and then go back to their more small group or resource classrooms to get that support. But in terms of meeting that least restricted environment, it starts with our general ed classrooms first. So I am totally in agreement with that. And I think, we should always start there first and work our way through the continuum of services to determine the best placement for that student.
Gotcha. All right, and we have time for one more question. Dr. Thomas, thank you so much for staying on with us.
Oh, absolutely.
So I have a question here. Now, we don't get into specific situations with children, but I'll say generally, which elementary schools offer special education services?
All of our elementary school offers special education services.
And
Now,
really all
depending
schools,
depending on the program, the programs may be different, our low incidence programs, but all of our elementary classrooms, schools, I'm sorry, offer special ed programs. I mean, yeah,
Yeah. All right.
classrooms.
So thank you again, Dr. Thomas, for your time. Before we end, I'll remind everybody one more time. If you shared a question and left your email address at our rcboe.info/townhall, so our forum that collected questions, we'll share that with you. We'll give you a ping when we have responses to our FAQs up on our website. A copy of this recording and a copy of all the questions and responses will be uploaded to rcboe.org www.schoolsystem.org/townhall. Within 3 business days, we're going to upload those and make sure that we answer your questions thoroughly for anyone that we missed tonight. And if you have a specific concern about special education, a specific question about your child and your situation, you can feel free to reach out to the special education department. Dr. Thomas, you want to share that phone number one more time for us?
Yes, it's 706-826-1132, 1132.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your questions. We encourage you to reach out to us either on our website, your child's teacher, your administrators, to keep these conversations going. And we'll see you next month when we release the date for our next virtual town hall event. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.